and I've whipped my body. I've spoken to it so harshly, so mean. Why don't you do this why can't you be like every other body? And then God allowed my body to speak back, and my body said back to me, have I not been the body that's carried you all the days of your life? Grand Canyon University, a private Christian university in beautiful Phoenix, Arizona, believes that we're endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. GCU equips you to serve others in ways that promote human flourishing and create a ripple effect of transformation for generations to come. Matthew 5:16 says, "In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven." By honoring your career calling, you impact your family, your friends, and your community. Whether your pursuit involves a bachelor's, master's, or doctoral degree, GCU's online, on-campus, and hybrid learning environments are designed to help you achieve your unique academic, personal, and professional goals. Find your purpose at Grand Canyon University. Private, Christian, affordable. Visit gcu.edu. Life is like a roller coaster, but it's better when we go through it together. Welcome to the Candace Cameron Bure Podcast. We're sharing conversations about life's challenges, celebrations, and everything in between. Season 9 is Girls Under Pressure with Ali Schnacky and my daughter, Natasha Bure. Come join us. Hi, guys.
Hi. Hey.
Hi, guys. I feel like that's such an Instagram thing to say.
It's like when you vlog.
Hi, guys.
Oh my gosh.
Hey, guys.
I think I still go into my vlogger voice sometimes.
I do all the time.
So weird.
As soon as a camera, I'm like, hi, guys. So anyways.
Do you hear that with each other
pitch
too?
goes up high. Yeah, I used to make fun of Natasha all the time.
But then
like,
she does it
"Hi,
too.
guys."
She does the exact same thing.
But I say, hi, friends. I say friends instead of guys.
I know you do.
Hi, friends.
Hi, friends.
Hi, friends.
Hi, friends.
She gets this soft voice. Hi, friends. And then she's like, by the way, blah, blah, blah.
I love it.
Well, today we're talking about body image. And we talked about fashion and modesty in an earlier episode. And we kind of saved this one separate from that because it's a pretty big topic that I think a lot of us women struggle with. I'm always so happy for the people that don't struggle with this. And I know a lot of guys struggle with it too.
Yeah.
But I feel like more people struggle with this than not.
I was actually curious, so I Googled it. And I always wonder how they get these
Fact
statistics.
checker.
Do you guys ever wonder, like, how do they come up with how do they come up with this number?
Yeah.
Well, online it says 88% of women deal with poor body image because of social media, actually.
Oh, wow.
I believe it.
Yeah, I believe it too. I thought it would be even higher than that.
No.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm really happy for that 12%.
I feel like the other 12 just aren't on it.
Yeah, right?
They are
Liars.
When was the first time you were aware of your body? And did you have positive or negative feelings associated with it?
For me, honestly, I believe that it was something that I just grew up with from a really young age. I think I'd like to believe that maybe when I was in middle school was when I had poor body image. But when I really think back to my childhood memories, I was even younger than middle school, probably honestly elementary school, maybe younger than 10 years old, if I'm being completely real and honest. And that actually makes me really sad to say because I don't even understand how a kid could be insecure about their body.
It's weird, right? I'm the same way though. I have very vivid memories being in 5th grade and 6th grade and felt so bad about my body. Yeah. And not that anyone even said anything bad about my body, but I hated my arms. I've always had this love-hate relationship with my arms my entire life.
Really?
But I remember my cousin, Megan, went to my elementary school for 1 year. And I'm 5'2". Megan is 5'11" or 6 feet tall.
Wow.
I mean, now, but not when we were in middle school, but she is tall and slender and beautiful. So even we're the exact same age. So when she went to school with me that year, I remember she came over to play on the yard with me, and I like pushed her or something because she was like, what was that for? And I was like so mad at her. And it was just because I was jealous of her. And I loved her so much, but just her now being at school, I felt like I was comparing my body to her body. And I remember that day I was so insecure because I was wearing a tank top and it was really hot, but I've been always insecure about my arms. And I felt so self-conscious that day because I had the tank top on and my arms were exposed, that when she came over to play, it was just this visual of everything that I didn't look like. And so I got mad at her and pushed her.
How long did you kind of feel like that towards her?
I mean, we made up immediately because we saw each other every day and she lived really close, and I apologized to her. And I think I even knew at that moment when I did, or reflecting on it, that it was because I felt insecure, even as an 11-year-old or 12-year-old.
That's so little.
Yeah, I know. And it's really sad. It's so sad to me that I felt that insecure that young.
You know, it's so common though.
I felt so insecure. I remember one of our favorite shows was America's Next Top Model. We used to watch it all the time. And, you know,
Are you going to smize for us right now?
No, but the women on that show were just so skinny and lanky, and that was not my body at all. Especially playing tennis. Like I just had bigger legs and all the things. And I remember we went to the beach, and I must have been, it was before I moved. So it must have been, I was like 8 or 9 or something. And I just remember thinking like, I wanted to go on that show when I was older. Like that was my dream. Oh, I'd love to go. And then I looked at myself in the mirror in the bikini and I was like, oh, I'll never be able to go on that show. Like I'm not as skinny as all those girls. And it's so sad, the fact that I was 8 years old and thinking that, you know?
Yeah.
It's just the images that were fed, and then the immediate comparison is just insane.
Yeah. The images that were fed though, they really have changed over the last 30, 20, 10 years, because even growing up, I'm thinking of all the 90s models that were my refrigerator inspiration, meaning I'd cut the magazines out and paste them on my refrigerator and think like, one day I'm going to look like Kate Moss. I'll be as skinny as Kate Moss or Christy Turlington or Cindy Crawford, like all of those supermodels back in the 90s. And yet God he did not make my body that way. He did not. I'm 5'2". So even just that alone, I'm never going to be runway model material. But we had such thin role models in the 90s. And as the decades have progressed, especially to today, there's so much body positivity in all types of bodies and embracing your curves. And now, I mean, I look at magazines or even online magazines, and models don't look anything like they did in the 90s or 2000s.
Totally.
Like you see every body shape represented today.
It's also funny how I feel like there are cultural trends in terms of the body types that women have. So when, you know, you were growing up, it was people who were super stick skinny. And, you know, when I was growing up, or even the past few years, has been girls that are a little bit curvier, and everyone's getting, you know, I don't want to say what they're getting, but
getting
like a BBL or something.
Yeah.
Like they're getting like this hourglass shape, where before
it's a booty. That's all.
Right. They were made fun of it. Like I think about how J-Lo used to get made fun of her butt.
Yeah.
Now it's like what
everyone's
everybody
paying
is
for a butt.
doing. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So it's crazy how there's just like the trend of with fashion, which is crazy that we're doing that with our bodies, like what's in and what's not, you know, and how to dress or accentuating
that.
Like
part is so weird.
That's
to me.
crazy.
It is weird. The fact that, but I mean, I see the influence, and I guess some things are more crazier to me than others, but particularly you think about the Kardashians, who have, they have so much weight in terms of whatever they do, people follow. You know, they are, and especially when it comes to their body. And we've all seen several of them. Well, not so much Kourtney, right? Kourtney's kind of stayed the same.
I think you're right. I think that
but
is
like
the one that
some of
kinda,
the other
or
girls, like
Kendall,
you've seen their
maybe?
bodies change over the years to the point where you're like, wait, I don't think they had a butt like that. Now they do have a butt like that. And I don't think that's just working out at the gym. And then that starts a trend literally of like people just going and buying butts.
Or you're not even aware that people are buying butts, and now you're just looking at an unrealistic expectation for your natural body to look like.
Exactly.
And you feel like trash about yourself.
Totally.
Yeah. So true.
Like where you guys, when you hit, your young adult years, your late teens, we've been in the body positivity space. Do you think that's helped you, or do you still have skewed views like I still have?
To be honest with you, I think no matter how much, again, body positivity there is or positive affirmation, it's just a deep insecurity within yourself, that you deal with. And so I think it's really person to person. I know there's days where I feel super confident about my body and like not much has changed. And then the next day, literally, I look the exact same and I feel terrible about myself, So in this culture, I do feel that we're making strides and it is so helpful. And I love that we're embracing every body type and the uniqueness. And, we're such a like good example. Even growing up, like my body couldn't have been more different from yours.
Yeah.
And I always saw the way that you dressed and the way that your body is and thought you were so beautiful, but it honestly never took away from my body. And I know that relationship, goes back and forth. And I think that if there was any insecurity, it was never from like other people. It's just within yourself, So I'm glad that we're in this climate where we are able to encourage and celebrate that.
I just want to say this. Some people are just listening to this, and then there's visual for some people if you're watching on YouTube. But I think if someone went to our Instagrams right now, they'd be like, Natasha, what are you talking about? Like that your body's different than your mom's? Because I think looking right now, you're a little...
Well, I said growing up.
Yeah, right. You're only 2 inches taller than me. Right. But growing up,
right.
I don't want to like point out body parts because that's just weird. But
well, I know. And that's why
Natasha was much curvier than me. And I just thought it was awesome. I just thought it was so good. And from my perspective, I feel like you felt a lot of confidence in your body, which actually inspired me and made me think about the way I would talk about my body, especially in front of you, because I'm like, I know that when you have self-negative talk as a parent, all of that reflects down to your kids.
Right. Well, can I just say, even growing up, especially having played tennis, I had very big legs. I had very muscular legs. And I also was such a late bloomer that I wasn't fitting into like a lot of the tops that my girlfriends were. And so even with your clothes, sometimes there was like a disconnect in my brain because you're such a tiny person, but we're different.
Yeah, our proportions were very different.
Super different.
She filled out the booty, I filled out the bust.
So we could never borrow each other's things and whatnot. So I would look at her and go like, I'm not fitting into anything, because she's such a slender person and our bodies are completely different. And then she would look at me and go, oh, well, maybe I had more of a butt or something like that. It's just, everyone is truly built different. That's just how it is.
Can I be honest with you guys?
Yeah.
My opinion is probably going to be a little controversial.
Okay, we're here for it.
And that's okay because you guys don't have to agree with me or like think the same thing as me, But I think that it has its pros and cons for sure. I know for me, growing up, I always did. I idolized those really skinny girls. And I think in my head, when I was trying to figure out my identity as a child through my teen years, like you were talking about, I really just wanted to be skinny because I thought that that's the only body type that guys liked.
Right.
Yeah.
And when you're growing up, you find so much value in if guys like you or not. Like that's what you're looking for. And so I kind of really bought into the lie that guys weren't going to like me until I looked like that.
Yeah.
And as I've gotten older, and this is a pro to the body positivity kind of wave that's coming through, I saw so many different body types that I had never seen before because they did not portray them at all on the internet or on our favorite TV shows or in our magazines or anything. So when I saw these body types that resembled mine, I actually felt really confident. And it made me like, wow, I don't have to look like a stick. Like I can be curvy and still be a woman. Like that's amazing. And then even dating my boyfriend, Austin, I grew up, and no offense to the white guys out there, but I grew up surrounded by a ton of white guys that just liked a certain type of girl. You know, they all like those blonde sorority girls, same build, same everything. And when I started dating a mixed guy, he was like, Allie, I like the curves. I like everything. And I was so shook because it was another world I didn't know about. But it gave me so much confidence that there were more people out there that liked different body types, different things. And a con, I would say, for me personally, to the body positivity wave is I think sometimes it goes so extreme to where we're almost encouraging, in a way, not being healthy.
Yeah, unhealthiness and encouraging obesity. I do agree with that too.
And that doesn't set right with me because I will see like advertisements in a store for a certain outfit. And instead of inspiring me to be the best version of the body God's given me, it's encouraging me to stay where I'm at or get worse, and that it's okay. And it has nothing to do with if you deserve and don't deserve love. Everybody deserves love at every point in life that they're at. But I just think that we're called to call each other to the healthiest, most fun, free versions of ourselves.
I think that, first of all, I could not agree more. But I want to say that it's funny because sometimes we might be at the skinniest version of ourselves and think like, wow, I should be feeling my best, but it's in an unhealthy way. Then, you know, we're celebrating that. And then in the same position, you might say, well, I don't really care what I look like. Everybody's beautiful. And then I'm treating my body again in another unhealthy way. And so for me, especially with my dad growing up, he was so adamant about never placing value on really what I looked like in my body. And I'm so grateful to him for that, because with all the pressures, especially that coming from a male perspective, I think is just unique. And
so powerful.
Him being an athlete and taking care of his body, and he's had his own body struggles when he was younger and figuring out, you know, how to put on muscle or lose fat when he's training and things like that. Those are all things he had to deal with. But I know when I was growing up, it was never, oh, you lost weight, so you look really great. It was, you worked out today, you got in movement, you've been eating healthy. I just noticed a difference in your whole aura, just everything about you, you know? And I know that you're working hard on being the best and healthiest version of yourself, and you look incredible for that. And that's where I say everybody's beautiful. And that's where I say when you are truly taking care of yourself, it really doesn't matter what the outer appearance is. But when you're lacking in your health and your motivation and your will to fuel your body in the best ways, that's where I do believe that the body positivity wave movement can become, a little tricky.
So good, Natasha. So true.
I'm so glad that you have Papa in your life.
Me too. That's rare.
And I have him in my life too, because
so cool.
That was just a good reminder for me. And it's true. He has always said that. And I'm much more of the person that's thought negatively about my body for so many years. But it's always been about the fitness, the health. Like, are you getting in movement today? Are you treating your body well? And that's always been a struggle for me. And I'm grateful that he's poured those positive words in. And so again, for those of you listening, if you don't have someone that's pouring those words into you, you can be that person to pour into someone else.
When you're speaking negatively about yourself, it's one thing when you're doing it, in the privacy of you in a mirror or something like that, and obviously that's not great at all. But when you're around other people, you really don't realize who it's affecting. And if I'm talking about the way that I feel, and if I'm saying, oh, I woke up and if I have one pimple on my face and the girl next to me has a bunch of acne, but I'm sitting there tearing myself down and calling myself ugly for the one pimple that I have, I can't imagine how I'm making her feel.
Right.
And so I have to be so mindful of the way that I speak about myself when I'm around other people, because I never want to invalidate someone's feelings about their confidence or the way that they look or feel about themselves. And that's something that why my friends and I, like I told you, if there's one negative comment, it's just nip it in the bud. We don't even need to go there because if, one of my best friends, she's almost 6 foot. She's a lot taller than me. And so naturally, she's a lot bigger than me. But it doesn't mean that her body is any less beautiful than mine. But sometimes I've caught myself speaking negatively and she's a lot bigger. And, she'll try to console me. And then I'm like, man, I can't even imagine how I probably just made her feel because she's bigger than me. And it has nothing to do with weight. It's just like how she was made.
She just made bigger.
And she is so healthy. She is so on her game. And so that's also something that I want to encourage, the listener here is just be mindful of the way that you also speak about yourself, because you really don't know who's listening and who's around. And that's for parents,
here's my question to you. How much have I damaged you or formed your own self-image because of what you saw or heard me say or do? Or was there anything positive? Because obviously, I think a lot of people know I've struggled with an eating disorder most of my life, but that's been like a roller coaster, the ups and downs of it. But in more, recent years, it's been pretty steady, and I have a pretty good grip on what I do love, and have really enjoyed fitness in my life and that kind of stuff. But were there any standout moments? We're going into therapy territory. Standout moments of my self-talk that affected you?
The thing that always confused me is that you were so encouraging about my body, and I had such a different looking body than yours, especially when I was younger and in my teen years. So to me, I think if anything, it was just more confusing because I know that you would be like, wow, Natasha, you look amazing in those jeans. Wow, you look so beautiful in that dress. But maybe I was like significantly heavier than you. So I didn't really understand. Then when you would look in the mirror and say like, oh, I don't like the way my arms look, or I don't like the way that this looked. Because to me, I'm like, you're so beautiful and there's so many things about you. But honestly, I will say that our family just really did such a good job of honing in on the importance of health and fueling your body. And my dad always made this analogy of treat your body again like it's this expensive car. You want to fuel it with the best gas. And, when you have a nice car, you turn on the engine for a little bit to let it warm up. Like these are things you do just to make it run as smoothly as possible. And that's how we should be treating our bodies, with the most respect. And if we do that and we're really treating it like a temple, then who cares what the outside looks like?
I'm only giggling because of the one video that you shot, and you tried to make me eat things that I didn't want to eat. And I was like, but my body is not a garbage can.
That is so irrelevant.
But that's like what we've always said, and what you're saying with Papa is that our body is not a garbage can. So treat it well, fuel it right.
I had a very different upbringing when it came to that. And honestly, I love hearing stories like that, Natasha, because it encourages me for my future. And like how to raise my family, how I want to instill in them these values that really I just didn't know about growing up. And I honestly, and this could be something you agree with, maybe don't, but I honestly think when it comes to like weight and when it comes to body image and poor self-body image and all those things, that it can really be a generational curse. Even when it comes to binging and eating disorders or whatever. And so my family in particular, we all of us, and I would pull my siblings in here, they'd say the same thing. I think that from a very young age, our extended family, our grandparents, our parents, were always making comments, jokes about the way that they looked, about feeling not good in their body and then going on crash diets. I mean, I can't even remember drinking a regular Coke when I was young. We were drinking Diet Cokes from when we were kids, just because our parents were not feeling good in their own skin. And then they'd go on a crash diet, really want to like get better. They just didn't really know that every single day balance. They just didn't know better, And as a kid, I didn't know any better either. I just thought it was normal to view your body like that. And so I was always extremely insecure about the way that I look. And even in my teen years, I look back and I was so thin, and it makes me so sad because I genuinely thought I was so overweight. And I don't know how I thought that, because I look back and I wasn't. And I think we have so much power in our minds we don't really understand. And I actually remember being in elementary school. It's funny you brought up your elementary school. I remember being in my elementary school and I really wasn't even overweight. I was just kind of like a little fluffier kid, And I hadn't even hit puberty yet. And I remember feeling like insecure about the way that I looked too. And this kid coming up to me and saying to me something like, oh my gosh, you're so fat or something. And it hit me so hard. And I think I made a mean comment back because I was a kid and said, well, I can change that, but you can't change your face, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, it's horrible. My dad made me go back and apologize. but I was so hurt from such a young age. And I carried that comment with me throughout, honestly, probably all throughout my high school years. That one thing that somebody said to me on elementary school. And honestly, I feel thankful because my family kind of is to a place now where they're pursuing health and they're looking, they've got their little app. I don't even know what it's called, but they scan everything and we've kind of like balanced out everything. But that was definitely a struggle for me growing up, watching my parents speak so poorly about themselves and constantly make jokes because I took it on. And so did my siblings.
Yeah. And generational curse. I agree. My mom has been a crash dieter her whole life. So we saw that modeled for us. And that's been me. I've literally been on every single diet plan since I was 12 years old. Like I've tried all of them. Jenny Craig, Weight Watchers, Nutrisystem.
Oh, me too.
The Pritikin diet. And then every little weird diet in between.
She's a recent carnivore.
Carnivore, for sure. Which I do enjoy. But anyway, it is. And I thought to myself, I mean, the other day as I still struggle, because a lot of people ask me on social media, can you please tell me your eating plan? And I won't tell anyone my eating plan. And it's not because there's anything I'm hiding, but I'm still trying to figure my eating rhythms as I age, because it does change as you get older. And I'm in that state of maybe perimenopause, whatever. There's discussions. Perimenopause, like before menopause. I would say I'm not fully in it yet per my doctor, but lots of people on the internet want to tell me that I am. So anyway, but like your hormones and all that.
That's hilarious. Why do people do that stuff?
Yeah, it is funny. But all of that changes. So with that, I'm trying to find what helps me with my body right now. Like what type of eating do I want to do? What do I need to change? Because some things that I did in the past worked really well. And now I'm finding they're not working well. But all of that to say, I kept thinking, I'm like, why is eating so hard? Why is it so hard? Like in terms of, there's the food is in abundance, not all healthy food, but food's everywhere. And I'm like, when did food have to consume my life? Yeah. And I think that's what bothers me so much. I've personally never been a free eater in terms of like, I can just like pick things up, munch on things, have my meal.
Either. My boyfriend's like that.
Not feel it on my body or not go like, oh, I'm bloated. Oh, I feel this way or that way. I've never just had a freedom to eat and be like, oh yeah, I don't think about it. I do think about it all the time.
Yeah. It becomes like an obsessive thing that you think about all the time.
Yeah. So it got really complicated. And I'm sure because I do have a history of an eating disorder, it might be even a little more complicated in my brain. I don't know. But I've also learned that things that I really do love to combat some of those negative feelings, that's really positive in my life, has been exercise. And that's not the use of exercise as, a form of another disordered type of thing. It is not in any way. It is something that I found actually frees my mind, gives me mental clarity when I exercise, when I sweat, when endorphins are released. So I have really loved that. And that then in turn, because I enjoy the fitness, has the effects of helping me feel even better in my body, despite what I'm eating or not eating. I've been in front of the camera my whole life, so I'm pretty seasoned as to what makes me feel comfortable on and off screen when it comes to makeup. So I was pleasantly surprised and delighted by Adele Natural Cosmetics. Adele carries everything for your daily skincare needs, as well as color cosmetics and so much more. They offer personalized customer service with real people, and they even provide complimentary foundation color matching. All you have to do is reach out to customer service and ask. I've personally been using the highlighter glow stick and the bronzer stick. Both products are super creamy, but not in a way that's overpowering, and they blend to perfection. And not to mention how long they both last, even on some of the busiest days. So follow Adele on Instagram. That's at Adele Natural Cosmetics for lots of tutorials, behind the scenes, and encouraging content. And then use my one-time use code for 25% off your first order. Use the code Candace for 25% off your first order.
This is something I'm so passionate about. Like, I could talk about this for hours because when I was younger, whenever I had an attitude, if I threw a tantrum, anything, my dad used to send me on runs, like a 2-mile run around the neighborhood or whatever. That was his form of what I thought punishment. And it wasn't until much later that I realized it was never a form of punishment. He just knew when I was physically active and I have all these endorphins releasing, I'm going to end up in a better mood. I can't name you one single time that I got back from the run or any type of workout that he'd put me through that I didn't run to him, give him a hug and say, thank you for putting me through that. Not once. And he'll tell you that. And I'm so grateful for him showing me what physical activity and movement can really do for your mental health. It's incredible. And I feel like there's this stigma within working out and being healthy that working out seems like a punishment. It's hard. It's tough.
Right.
So many people don't want to go to the gym. And, you know, there's also a whole side of it. We were talking about it this morning. You don't know what to do when you go to the gym. It's intimidating. There's all these things.
Yeah.
But I feel as though it's a lot easier just with the access that we have online to people, you know, that can instruct you in videos and things like that. But
shout out Kira Stokes.
Shout out Kira Stokes.
Who is that?
My fitness trainer.
Oh, really?
She's awesome. And she has an app. So like if you don't know where to start with Kira online.
Yeah. I think for me, number one, seeing how physical movement just put me in a better mood. But also the funniest thing, whenever I'd come to my dad and I'd say, okay, you know, I want to tone up a little bit. Do you mind helping me? And we'd go through 2 weeks. You know, you're kind of in this with Papa right now. You've been following his specific workouts and whatnot. In 2 weeks, realistically, you're not going to see that much of a change. You might see a little something, but it's not like your clothes aren't fitting you anymore or whatever. But it is the mental shift and the mindset that you have of, okay, I'm actually doing something to aid my body. I look good in these jeans. Nothing's changed. You haven't lost weight. Your butt isn't any bigger. But
I think my butt is a little bigger,
well, yours
by
is bigger.
the way.
Is it really?
2 weeks I've been working out with
Yes.
Val. I still work out with Kira, but like I've been lifting heavy with Val.
Yes.
And he's like, babe, I feel the butt.
But Mom, for
you've got a butt coming in.
That's so encouraging.
Okay, but Mom, for
Sorry,
the
I
average
digress.
person, because I'm just saying most
Yes, I
people
know.
are not going to see the immediate results.
True.
And so, but the funny thing is that mentally, I will think, oh my gosh, I look so much better.
Yeah.
And it's just the little things that then shift your mentality and your mindset. And so I'm such an advocate for getting out and getting physical movement in every day. It doesn't need to be going to the gym. It doesn't need to be this 2-hour strenuous workout. You can go on a walk. You can go and call a friend and get steps in.
Yep.
You can go on a hike. You can go swimming. You can do whatever. But it's all these things that really, it's just the releasing of these endorphins that does help your mental health so much. You become so much clearer. You sleep better, all these things. And I think for body positivity, it's not necessarily about the looks. It's just the confidence that it brings you.
Yeah. I agree.
It's so true. And I've been thinking as we're talking, I do want to be sensitive too, because I know there might be people listening that have health issues that restrict them
Oh, for sure.
from doing certain things. And that's where I love how this conversation is really steering and playing out about how it's not as much the way you look. It's just doing what you can to take care of the vessel that God's blessed you with.
Yeah.
I know a pivotal moment in my life was, and I shared this with y'all, but I got sick in 2022. And I always, my whole life struggled with the way that I looked, and I wanted to be skinnier, and I just didn't feel good about myself, especially being online too. People make so many comments that are just uncalled for and make you paranoid about the things you already were down about. And so when I got sick in 2022, I literally lost 25 pounds in probably 4 months. And it was really unhealthy. My body was just shutting down. I had so many different things that they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. I was in and out of ERs. I couldn't eat anything because my body would reject it. My throat would swell up, but I didn't have any allergies. So they literally couldn't help me. And it got to the point where I was so bad, I was on oxygen for a couple of months just in my room. I couldn't leave my room. And I remember being the skinniest I ever was. I was below my goal weight and looking at myself in the mirror and just sobbing my eyes out that I took advantage and treated the healthy vessel that God gave me my entire life up to that point like such trash. When literally the most valuable thing that I wanted was my health back. Where I would hate to go to the gym before, it was like you said, it was a struggle. Like I hated it. It was a punishment. Now I would do anything to just be healthy again, to be able to better myself and just be in there. And I'd be privileged to do it. Yeah. Because that was the most important thing. And I really thought I was going to die in that season of my life. Like I say that in a way, but I really did. It was a really dark season. And I remember praying to God and just saying, Lord, if you get me out of this, because none of the doctors can, like I will never treat my body like that again. Yeah. And he did, by the grace of God. He spoke a word over me. And one night he told me he was going to heal me at this worship event. And I didn't want to get my hopes up, but I chose to believe, you know what? He says, him who is double-minded should expect to receive nothing, right? So I said, you know what? I'm going to believe. And he literally healed me that night. Wow. And started my journey towards like a healthy mindset. And I've never been the same since. And it reminds me so much. I love this verse and I'm going to read it to you guys because I want to encourage you guys too. But it's 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 19. And it says, you should know that your body is a temple for the Holy Spirit that you received from God and that lives in you. You don't own yourselves. You were bought at a price. Therefore, honor God with your bodies. And when I became healthy again, and I remember the first time going to the gym, I was so weak. I literally, guys, it was pathetic. I had to use my arms as weights because I couldn't lift any weight. My boyfriend laughs at me for it. But it really became a place of worship for me, where before it might have been a punishment. Now it was somewhere that I could go. And even when I didn't feel like it, I felt like I was worshiping the Lord. I heard from him when I was there. I was pushing beyond what I wanted to, like giving my best. And I really feel like he meets us in those moments when we're pushing even what we want to the side to bring glory to him, take care of what he's given us. So
yeah, that's so good. It is. I'm going to share one little story with you guys before we go to a listener question, but I was, I had a dream. I was working through some really deep issues in therapy, and I had a dream one night, and it was so random to me. There is a story in the Bible. It's in Numbers 22, and it's when the donkey, God opens the donkey's mouth, and it talks to its master. So in the story, there's this guy, Balaam, who talks, who he hears God, and he is going to then, he's going to the king Balak's place. And as he gets on his donkey and he's about to go through kind of a narrow road, and the donkey sees the angel of the Lord, which I believe is Jesus. But he sees the angel of the Lord, and the donkey turns and goes to the right into the field. And Balaam whips his donkey and says, get back. We need to go down this road. So he goes to this road, and the angel of the Lord appears again, and the donkey sees the angel, and he pushes Balaam up against the wall now and smashes his foot. So Balaam whips his donkey again and says, what are you doing? And then a third time, he tries to make the donkey go through the narrow road, and the donkey then gets down on all fours. And Balaam whips his donkey again and says, what are you doing? And at that moment, the angel of the Lord opened up the donkey's mouth, and the donkey spoke to Balaam and said, what are you doing? Why'd you whip me 3 times? Have I not been your donkey? And I'm paraphrasing. Have I not been the donkey that's carried you all the days of your life? Have I always been loyal to you? How often have I veered from what you've asked me to do? And at that moment, God then reveals himself, the angel of the Lord. And now Balaam sees that there's an angel in the path, huge, with a sword, I believe. I mean, massive. Just so There's no way the donkey could pass. He was blocking the way. And at that moment, Balaam's eyes were like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry to the donkey. I didn't see. I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the story that's in the Bible. And I wake up from this dream one morning, and God just vividly showed me that I've been like Balaam, and I've whipped my body. I've spoken to it so harshly, so mean. What are you doing? Why do you look this way? Why are you fat? Why don't you do this why can't you be like every other body? And then God allowed my body to speak back, and my body said back to me, have I not been the body that's carried you all the days of your life? Am I not your legs that allow you to walk? Am I not your arms that allow you to pick up and feed yourself? I don't do anything that you don't ask me to do. I follow you and I'm obedient to you. Why do you hurt me so badly? And why do you talk to me so badly? And why do you treat me this way? I can lift you up. I can give you strength and weights, but you have to tell me what to do. I'm only following your lead. And it was like this amazing revelation in my life, and the weirdest story out of the Bible that God spoke to me about how mean I've been to my body. And yet I never saw it that way. It's this like beautiful, amazing thing that God gave me. And I get to drive it. I get to steer it. And, but sometimes my body will react in ways because I'm not treating it right or well. And it tries to tell me that, but it was so enlightening for me. And I was so grateful to God for sharing that with me. And since that time, it's given me a whole different perspective of how I think about my body. And when I want to use harsh words against it, or I'm just unhappy with it, I think about that story, and then I think about the gratitude that I have for my body, that I literally have feet, that I can still walk. It can carry me, that I can pick up my kids. I can go grocery shopping. I can go to work. I can lift my arms up high in celebration. I mean, all the great things that my body gives me. And so it's just this amazing story and reminder. And I hope that encourages someone today about when they're thinking about negative self-talk, that you actually think about this beautiful body that God gave you.
That's so powerful. There's some things that you hear in your life that you just don't forget.
Uh-huh.
And that's one of them. Mm.
Well, I hope for anyone that would be effective and powerful for them to think about. I hope you never forget it either. I'll never forget it.
I know I will never forget that.
Okay, let's take a listener question. This is from Carissa. And we have talked about this in a previous episode about balance, but it's a question a lot of parents have because it also relates to body image. She said, I love the Parenting Teens episode with Josh and Christy Straub. Yay, I'm so glad you did. My question is, what guidance can you give on how you handle the social media world with teens? Currently, our family stance is no social media, but I'm curious, what's a good age to introduce it, and how do you instill safe use of it?
You guys didn't let us use social media, I think, till I was like maybe 15. Also, that's kind of when you were getting on it yourself. So we didn't get on it, until that age. And
I would even refine that now myself.
Totally. But you guys were still pretty restrictive with our time limit on it and what we were allowed to be on the platforms. Like I don't think I could have a Facebook, but you let me have like an Instagram that you monitored that I could post photos on and things like that. I think so much is just, Yeah, I would probably do the same, if not more than what you did. And just like,
right. We put boundaries on it. I think we allowed it starting around high school. But again, I would answer that differently now because you guys are older. I would be more restrictive with it because
really,
yes. Like our son Lev went off social media completely, especially when he was in college. And, you know, that was like a whole world opening up because he didn't have any of that to fight for his time when he's working a full job and going to school at the same time. And I also feel like even since you guys were in high school, that there's just so much more on social media that is even more dangerous. And I think as time is going on, we're seeing the collective data and understanding that too much of this is affecting, we talked about depression and anxiety with our kids. So for me, I mean, the minimum would be to hold off to high school, but I'm kind of like, you could hold off till they're adults and say, okay, now you're 18, you get to make your decisions. I'm like, I would hold off as long as you can.
I think my only posing question to that, not that I'm in full disagreement, but I think that what are your thoughts on someone not having any experience with it, and then all of a sudden you get a smartphone, you have the world is your oyster, and not really knowing how to handle it because they weren't given the doses of it?
I understand that, but I can look to my sister who has 5 kids. She homeschools all of them, and her oldest is 18. And I think she just got a phone at 18. Like none of the kids have phones. None of them are on social media, but she's allowed them to have a few minutes on her phone occasionally to even know what that looks like. But from what I understand, I think that Kate, who's their oldest, is managing that really well. And it's not like this source of, oh, I didn't have it, now I have to go crazy with it.
I think also each kid is so different. And that's just why I posed the question, because for Kate, she was able to do that. If I was in her position, I honestly don't think that would be my case, which is only why I asked.
Yeah. I mean, I think parents should make decisions based on their kids' strengths and weaknesses, what they know about them. But as a general guideline, I mean, as a parent, I wouldn't say social media before high school.
I would say from my perspective, which is a little bit different and I love it. My parents, I actually don't remember them ever having rules on us when it came to TV, social media, which as I get older, I realize that's not really the norm, you know? And
right.
I don't really think we ever abused it. I don't remember when I first got social media. I can imagine it was probably when I was in maybe middle school, maybe. But something that my dad always had in line from the second that we did have social media was at any point, and this was our phones too, at any point, he was going to walk in your room and you did not know, and he would take your phone and he was going to go through the entire thing.
Yeah.
And that put the fear of the Lord in you. That was the scariest thing you could ever imagine in your life. And honestly, it kept us all in check. And also when you have a parent that's a believer, they just have this weird discernment when they know exactly when to walk in. And when like you've been good for like ever, and then they walk in right at that moment that you just texted a boy and you're like, where have you been the last 3 weeks?
Right.
And so for me personally, having my dad and my mom that involved in my use of social media was a huge protection for me.
Yeah.
And I really loved it, but it still gave me the freedom to be able to experiment, like know what was going on kind of in the world of my peers. And truthfully, from my perspective, and everybody just has to go based off what they believe their families. But from my perspective, most people, like most kids, I feel like move out when they're around, like, let's just say 18. Like when they become an adult, let's say they move out, right? So obviously you guys know that's not my case, but let's just say they do. I would so much rather have my dad navigate that world with me while I'm still in his household and he can speak wisdom to me because I have to listen to him. I'm in his house. Than to be on my own and then have this whole entire world and him not be there and think I can just do it myself, you know?
For sure.
So
I think it's such a tendency when you're not exposed to certain things. I mean, it's even the same conversation with not having friends who are believers, or just like there's certain aspects of life when you're not privy to what that looks like. Then when you get out in the real world, it's so much easier to make mistakes. You really don't know what you're doing. And then when you get to that age, you don't have your parents holding your hand through it. And as much as that isn't super fun to have your parents monitoring your phone the same way that, you would take our phones and things like that, I truthfully would rather have that than no context of what that world looks like and then being dropped in it and I'm making 10 times more mistakes.
Sure. I understand that. And we had that rule too. We were like, we can look at your phone at any time. I really don't understand so much the argument from parents when they say, yeah, but I want to respect my kid's privacy. But I'm like, but are you paying for the phone bill? Because like if I'm paying for my kid's phone bill, I have every right to that phone and I can look at it anytime that I want. So if we don't have, in privacy settings, like they can figure out how to undo those and go around those. So, I'm in agreement with your parents that we were like, hey, you can have this and you can use it. And we gave that to them, but I can look at your phone at any time. And if you change that password and you're going to have to tell me the new password, like that just doesn't fly.
And if I find out you're deleting things, you're in trouble.
And honestly, I would say, at least for me, the only things that I was ever hiding was just things that either I was not uncomfortable to talk about, but if we didn't have conversations about them. And that's why I've been so adamant just about open communication within family, between parents, because then what do I have to hide? If I'm already telling you everything that's going on in my life, I'm not going to be embarrassed. Because to be honest, half the things that I probably wouldn't want her seeing maybe was me texting with my crush, but that was just because I'm like, oh, I don't tell her about that. Do you ever change it
to a girl's name?
I don't, but I have done that. I actually did that recently for like a friend's surprise, and I was like blowing someone's mind about that.
I love this conversation. Carissa, I hope our answers helped you too. We got to wrap this one up. Thank you so much. And just remember, when life feels full of pressure, practicing gratitude really can change your day. We created a gratitude guide for you this season with daily reminders and scripture readings. Go to Candace.com to find the link. It's also in our show notes. Until next time, be grateful all day, every day. CandyRock Entertainment, all rights reserved.